And one step, one of many, to solving this crisis is to encourage policies that allow citizens of all income levels, backgrounds, and identities to live, work, and flourish in their city or town, hopefully in a city or town where the jobs are actually located. Because as our economy becomes increasingly urbanized and we as a country depopulate the exurban areas, the rural areas, and move into the job centers, land costs, land values go up, rents go up. That's why in June I introduced some legislation. This is my YIMBY Act. Yes. You know, I've got pretty good political instincts, and I know that the first rule to getting any piece of legislation passed is come up with a good acronym. And YIMBY is good, it gets a lot of attention, but for the uninitiated, it's the Yes in My Backyard Act, as opposed to the Not in My Backyard Act. We want to shed light on discriminatory land use policies. We want to encourage localities to cut burdensome regulations. And we hope to bring a new level of transparency to the community development process. Now, I know this area, you're ahead of the curve. In fact, you're holding a conference on the topic, right? And I commend you for that. But other communities need to really step up as well. Unfortunately, so many communities are building what you might call paper regulatory walls, barriers around themselves. And these are short-sighted barriers. Sometimes they're unintentional barriers that can negatively affect, sometimes even discriminate against low and middle income Americans. My bill would require cities, towns, and rural areas across this state, across the country, just to face a new level of openness with the citizenry. It would require recipients to go on the record with recipients of community development block grants to go into the record of why they aren't adopting certain identified pro-affordability policies, best practices, anti-discriminatory housing policies. Just go on record. This will inform policymakers. As we continue to do our work, it'll provide a higher level of understanding about why certain decisions are being made, and obviously, it will allow critiques where critiques are needed. The country is dealing with a housing affordability crisis. Not individual families, not individual persons, this is a national problem. And it's about time that localities, as important constituent parts of this nation, we make sure that they're all doing their part to make housing more affordable for everyone. Otherwise, all of us collectively end up paying more. We pay more in government benefits. We pay more in the opportunity costs of an economy that ought to be growing faster. We pay more because a lot of people, though the unemployment rate is very low, there's still millions of Americans who are on the sideline and aren't even looking for work, so they're of course not even captured in those low unemployment statistics. We want all of them to be able to locate in high opportunities areas or near high opportunity areas. And so we all have a vested interest in this level of transparency. In June, I also reintroduced some legislation that I think will serve as a predicate for bolder legislative action later. It is a task force, not a boring study group. This is a task force, all right? It will look into and then quantify the impact of the Affordable Housing Act, the affordable housing crisis. So here's what it's going to do. We're going to have 9 Republican designated members of this task force, and then we're going to have 9 Democrat members. And some will be housing developers, other will come from community groups, some will be economists, just a whole range of different people who will sit down, and we're going to put actual numbers to how much money we spend on medical costs, public assistance, food stamps, all manner of other things because there's not an adequate stock of affordable housing. We want to quantify these things. We also want to figure out the impact of the affordable housing shortage on life outcomes. We know that if people don't have accessible, habitable, affordable housing, that impacts all manner of metrics when we're trying to measure the quality of one's life. And so we want that laid out as well. And then lastly, we want some consensus recommendations from this task force. 70% of the members agree that there are things Congress can do at the federal level to help improve existing programs, or to take things that aren't working and channel that money into scaling up programs that are working, like the low-income housing tax credit program, or housing choice voucher mobility program, things like that. We want to make sure we're optimizing existing government programs. And so this has broad bipartisan support, as does the YIMBY Act. My hope is to get both of these things passed before year's end so that we can really get to work. I just thank all of you again for this opportunity to, number one, let you know that this is a priority of mine. Your presence here suggests this is an incredible priority of yours, and I thank you for that, because I think it's a real service to the community that you're taking an active role in addressing this for the local area. And I encourage you to contact my office if there's any legislation I should be looking at, if there are regulations that you find that are overly burdensome at the federal level, or if there are other barriers you think to opportunity, housing or otherwise, that I can remove so that everyone can realize their full human potential. The last thing is a call to action. It's a very easy call to action if you happen to own a cell phone and have one on you right now. You go to your web browser, you type in my last name, young.senate.gov, and there is a page that you'll encounter in the beginning, and it just asks for your name and email address. You don't have to give it to us, but if you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, we've heard really positive feedback about the quality of the newsletter and the number of things we're doing on your behalf to serve all Hoosiers and give everyone a fair shot at success. So thank you very much for having me today. Have a great weekend.